All right, this is going to be AP Calculus Unit 4, Lesson 7. We are talking about circular related rates. So where are we in our unit guide? So we are on 4-7. From here on out until the end of the unit, we are on related rates, standard K or power standard K. And yeah, you girls are going to be gone on Friday, so that's going to be triangular related rates. We'll record a video for you then. All right, so we have the setup ready. Let's knock down our setup. So differentiating area and circumference. When I say differentiate, what does that mean?
Derivative.
Derivative, yeah. So find the derivative. All right, so some things before we get started. What do my variables mean? Capital A is area, capital C is circumference, lowercase r is radius.
Wait, that's a capital C?
It should be capital C, yeah. I can erase that and make it bigger. Capital C.
How big does our circle need to be?
It doesn't matter. That's just on here to let you know that this is the circular one. That way when you're flipping through your notes, you're like, oh, that's the circular one. Oh, that's a spherical one. Oh, that's the triangle one, without even looking at the title. All right, so formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. So there's only three, I might go back on my word here, but I think there's only three formulas that you need to memorize, and this is one of them. Everything else that's really complicated, like, oh, surface area of a sphere, you don't actually need to memorize that. They will give it to you. So it's pretty basic. Just memorize basic equations. You have enough to memorize. Okay, so if a equals pi r squared, let's differentiate. Let's take the derivative. So I'm going to write what here? Well, what's the derivative of capital A? Yeah, a prime.
Is equal to 2 pi r.
2 pi r.
Is that it? Times pi.
Times pi? Close.
I think that's it.
So remember when we talked about...
R prime.
There it is. Yeah, times r prime. Whenever you have a letter that is not an X, it always has that extra dinner.
What about pi? Pi times?
So pi is a number, right? Pi is, you could have just said 3 about. If I said 3y, it would be, 3y prime. So that pi isn't part of the inner. All right, so let's talk about C. So my C here, do we remember the formula for circumference?
2 pi r?
There it is, yeah, 2 pi r. And you can say pi times diameter. Notice that I didn't give us diameter. Easy to find diameter. What do you do to find diameter? Just a quick review of geometry.
2.
Yeah. Radius times 2. And if you need to write that in the side notes, you can, but I assume we all remember that. So if I have circumference, let's differentiate. So what do I write?
C prime
C prime.
is equal to 2 pi times r prime.
Times r prime. Yep. There's the doubter, and there's the dinner. And you actually, yeah, I think that's as much as I want to say.
Wait, how is it 2 prime? Like, can you explain that a little more? Sorry.
2 prime.
Or 2 pi?
2 pi.
Yeah, so think of 2 pi as a number. This whole unit here, and I'm going to erase this in a sec so you don't have to write this, but this entire unit here is just one number. You can think of this like 3. Well, technically, I think you should write here 6. So it was 6r. The derivative of 6r is 6r prime.
Oh, because you just keep the... I gotcha. Okay.
You keep, yeah, that coefficient that's a constant, you just leave it there. Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so that's the basic stuff that I need to give you. Now I need to talk about some examples. All right, and I'm only going to do one example, and then we can go through the homework, because the homework will take a little bit longer. There's a lot of reading involved. All right, ejemplo número uno.
Whoa, Mr. Sindel.
I'm whipping out the Spanish. You should write it in Spanish too,
Should we?
if you want. I don't care. Example, and it's one of one, so I'm just going to say example. All right, this is going to be called oil spill.
It is.
Oil spill.
I like for that in Spanish. Oil spill.
All right, I have technology. Mwahaha. So you girls are going to have to write this. I can type.
Aw, boo.
Oil spilled from a tanker in a circle
A
From a
tainer?
tainer?
A tainer?
whose area
Wait, what's a tainer? Oh, okay.
I don't know. Oh wait, I was gonna say tanker.
Hey, you put in container. Like you did it so wrong.
From a tanker in a circle whose area increases
Completely different order.
at a rate of, and then 40 feet per second. How far
What?
is the radius increasing when the radius is 50 feet? All right, I'm gonna make all that Times New Roman because I like Times New Roman better, and I can make it a little bit bigger too. We'll go to 26. That seems good.
Whoa.
Sorry, it probably just changed your spot that you're looking at. All right, and I can move it around too. I can say I'm gonna move this.
I get a headache.
Wait, did you mean to say how far is the radius increasing when the area is 50 feet?
When the radius is 50 feet.
So how far is it
So the radius,
when it's 50 feet?
yeah. This is very similar to the types of questions that you will see on the AP tests. They give you very little information. You have to find most of it yourself. So the first thing that you need to do whenever you have a problem like this is to analyze the text. What is it giving us? All right, so the first thing is we have this word here, area. So we're gonna have to use a formula for area. Maybe I don't know. Just know that you're gonna use a formula for area. You can write that in the notes too. We have this thing, rate of 40 feet per second. That thing we do need to write down right now. Rate of 40 feet per second. What is increasing at 40 feet per second?
The amount of area.
Yeah, the amount of area. So
Wait, I don't know.
so it says that the area is increasing at this rate, right?
Yeah.
No.
So whenever I'm talking about rate, that's either going to be A prime, R prime, it's going to be something prime. And I will put that in notes because it's pretty important. So rate, that means it's some letter. So I'm going to put, I don't know what the best way to write letter. Maybe you can just do an aleph. Some letter prime.
What's that?
It's a Roman, or is it Greek? I think it's a Greek letter, lowercase a. Some letter, maybe you want to write just prime.
I'm just gonna write some letters prime.
So that means if it says that the rate is this, then what prime is equal to this? What is my letter prime? We're talking about area. So capital A prime. A prime is equal to, and is it increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Increasing. So it's going to be positive. So increasing, that means it's going to be positive at a rate of 40 feet per second. So A prime is equal to 40. We have dissected the question and we have come out with this information. A prime equals 40. We haven't even got to the second sentence yet, or second part of the problem. How far is the radius increasing?
So we have radius.
Okay, so the question here is, how far is it increasing? What is it asking for? Is that R or is it R prime?
R prime.
Okay, so R prime is the question. So R prime, oh, that's a big R. R prime. So you can either say equals question mark. I prefer box. I know I need to fill in the box. So that's the question, R prime. Oh, it gives us some more information. When the radius is 50 feet. So how do we translate that into our variables?
R
R
equals
equals 50.
Exactly, yeah, R equals 50. You girls are killing it. I like it.
Thank you.
All right, so from here, we know also that we're going to be using area. This is a circle. So area of a circle, let's go ahead and write that down. We have memorized that already.
pi r squared.
A equals pi r squared. And we know that this is calculus. This is a calculus problem. Therefore, we're also going to need A prime.
Which is 2 pi r times r prime.
2 pi r prime. Perfect. All right, we have all the information we need. Now we just need to somehow manipulate all of these variables, all of these r primes, a primes, until I get r prime. So now you just need to start plugging in. So where is r prime located? Our answer, r prime,
An A prime.
is right there. Maybe we should just plug in. Maybe we're done right from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and see what happens.
I think we are.
So let's plug in, a prime, we have 40, so we're going to plug in 40 here. I try to use black to indicate that I'm plugging in. So 40 is equal to 2 pi, and r is 50.
And now we solve for r prime. That's easy.
That's what you think.
And then he's gonna be like, whoa.
And r prime.
You actually have to.
Wait, I lost my hair.
Oh no.
Oh, here it is.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
So let's simplify this a little bit. This is going to be 40 is equal to, what does this simplify to?
Ow. 100 pi.
100 pi r prime. And then what am I going to do to both sides?
Divide by 100 pi.
Okay, so I'm going to get 40 over 100 pi. And in my class, you will always simplify this as much as you can. So this is going to be what?
2
Whoa.
over pi. 5 pi. Shoot.
4 over 50?
2 over 5 pi.
Oh, you
Okay.
got by 20.
And here's the kicker.
I was like, am I? Like,
Here's the kicker. We have to use units. Gasps. What? In math, we've never done units before. Well, we have touched on it in a few other classes, but usually till now we ignore them. In the AP test, you have to use units. I'm sorry, but we have to. What are my units?
Feet.
This is a rate.
Feet per
Feet per
second.
second.
Feet per second.
Never use
Here's
it.
the kicker.
Here's the kicker. Yeah, so go ahead and make yourself a note. Don't forget units.
I'm just gonna make it big letters and start.
Don't.
You can't tell me what to do.
Forget.
Oh, that's like, why can't I do that?
And this is another thing that I think we can all assume is don't substitute 3.14 in for pi. Leave it pi because that is an exact answer. But I don't think we're going to make that mistake because we've been doing a pretty good job in all my other classes of just leaving pi in there. Any other
Yeah, please.
things that we need to know?
I mean,
All right, so maybe we should talk about the general procedure here because this is all I want to do for the notes and then we're basically done. I think I should just add the general procedure.
Like
So-
the
Write
steps?
everything that you have, right?
Wait. What's the general? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so there's basically 2 steps, right?
Oh, okay.
What was step number 1?
Yeah, like we have to
Determine what is necessary in the problem.
Maybe I should do a new slide here to write it down so it doesn't get too messy on the slide.
That's
don't.
Wait, so would it be impossible to get a negative for that equation?
You can get a negative if it was decreasing, yeah.
But it said increasing.
Right, if you got a negative, that would mean that you have done something wrong.
Like Rosalie.
But if it tells you that it's decreasing from the get-go, then you start with a negative value, if that's your question. All right, so step 1 is to analyze the problem and get your variables. So
Remember when yesterday when Rosalie was like,
and get variables.
or like, whatever that's called?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
What's 2?
Halloween's over, so.
Yeah, it's going straight to Christmas music.
and step 2, our last step, is to just plug in and play with the equations.
It's like turkey is like, oh
Sorry.
So plug in, and I think play is the best way I can say this because some questions, I think,
What?
sorry, I was thinking and then I was saying at the same time. Some questions you'll have to like plug in this equation, not take the derivative, plug that number into the derivative, and then plug that number back into the non-derivative. So you do really have to play with it. So plug in and play with the equations.
So like, if they didn't give us R, we would plug in A.
Right.
If
So
they gave us A and A prime, we would plug into A with the A, and then find R, and then plug into the A prime.
yeah, exactly. So that type of playing. That's what I'm talking
I
about.
know.
All right. So that's the only thing that I want to add on to the notes, and that concludes our notes. Are there any questions before we write our summaries?
Nope.
Can I say goodbye to the people?
You can say goodbye.
Hey,
Goodbye.
bye.
Goodbye.